Hello everyone, and I'm Autobot Sonic the Telltale Gamer, bringing latest everything Transformers, Telltale games, and more. Welcome back to another EarthSpark review, where today we are going to be looking at Transformers EarthSpark Season 3, Episode 5, Fire and Ice. Now, just like last week's episode with No Sword Left Behind, Fire and Ice is another absolute banger of an episode, and this episode kind of brings to, like, a head the little Optimus and Megatron mini arc we've had this season, with Megatron and Optimus kind of butting heads with each other that we saw in the last episode. This one is absolutely great, like, good, really good MegOp food, all wrapped together in a oddly, like, weirdly zombie apocalypse-like story that I actually really enjoy. Of course, me being a big Telltale fan of stuff like Walking Dead and other stuff, of course I was gonna love this episode. But honestly, it's a really good episode, not just in terms of just being entertaining, but also one of the best Megatron and Optimus episodes in EarthSpark we've had, I want to say, since Season 1, Episode 8, Decoy, the one with Soundwave, and the two of them working together to catch him. This episode was absolutely amazing, so now let's go ahead and see everything this episode did right and why it's so awesome. I think it's implied that Episode 5 starts off a day or so after the events of Episode 4, considering none of the other Autobots know that Prowl is on Earth, and here Optimus comes in with Prowl after the events of Episode 4, reintroducing him to everyone. One thing, though, I am very happy about with this scene is, while it's cool to see Prowl interact with all the other Autobots, like, Elita, we also finally get to hear RC speak again. The first time in nearly 2 seasons that RC has spoken, and thankfully Martha Marion is back as the voice of RC, reprising her role from Season 1. It is so good to hear her as RC again this episode. She did so good as her back in Season 1. I was really upset when she didn't come back to voice her towards the end of Season 1 when RC showed up in episodes 24 and 26. Or even, she didn't show up in Season 2 at all, except for like 2 blinking you'll miss it scenes in the last episode of the season. And I don't know, maybe there was a scheduling conflict, so Martha Marion couldn't reprise her role as RC for the rest of Season 2. But it was just weird that we didn't see RC, or we didn't hear RC speak in the rest of Season 1 after her debut episode, and then neither in Episode 10 of Season 2. But it's so great to hear her back in this episode. Unfortunately, just like last time in Season 1, this is the only episode that Martha Marion actually gets to speak as RC in this season. RC will appear a few more times before the end of the season, but this is the only time she actually speaks. And at this point, though, I'll take what I can get. It's great to have her back as RC in this episode. And I especially love her relationship with Prowl in this episode, where at first, like, Alita is happy to see Prowl again, where she kind of, like, jokes at Prowl being a horrible flyer with him crashing his ship into the dome, but then at the same time RC is all happy to see Prowl, even like challenging him to like an arm wrestling contest. And I don't know, for me it seemed Prowl and RC's relationship with EarthSpark low-key reminds me of, like, it makes me feel like a much more friendlier version of what Prowl and RC's relationship was in the IEW comics, where they kind of had like sort of a like ex-lovers or like even like rivals like relationship going on in the IW1 comics, especially like towards the end of the Transformers 2009 run at the start of the Robots in the Skies comics. It really reminds me of like just a lot more platonic version of RC and Prowl's relationship from the IW comics, and I really like seeing that when EarthSpark takes so much stuff from the IW comics, from like a lot of character designs being based off their IW counterparts, or even incorporating stuff like the flowers from More Than Meets the Eye back in Season 1. I think it's just so cool to see so much IEW stuff making it into more mainstream stuff like the actual cartoons in the Transformers franchise. It's really awesome to see. Another thing that's awesome to see in this episode would have to be how even still we have Prowl and Megatron beefing with each other, but it's more so Prowl just trying to egg on Megatron here. Like in this one scene, what I mentioned before, when Alita and Prowl are talking and Alita's teasing Prowl about being a poor flyer, and she tells him maybe you should go talk to Megatron about flying lessons, and then Prowl, just for no reason, he decides to be so antagonistic and just says, "Oh, as if I would care about anything a Decepticon would have to say." And like literally he tries to get under Megatron's skin every single chance he can throughout this season. And I just love how petty Prowl is with Megatron. Though at this point, though, Megatron is just been like tuning himself out of it, where he just gives like just a half like sarcastic remark to Prowl, but doesn't like get angry or anything by him. And as you can just tell, Megatron is so done with Prowl's crap, but I just love it so much. Once Prowl is reacquainted with all the other Autobots, though, that's when RC actually brings up to him and Optimus that they've actually been keeping tabs on the Decepticons ever since they left Earth back in the previous episode. So RC reveals to Prowl and Optimus that she had Cosmos actually surveying the Decepticon ship before, as long as he could, before they left Earth's orbit. And they actually mentioned that while they've lost track of the Decepticons since they've left Earth, they did, however, get a few messages from Decepticons. And as we see here in these really funny shots, I think is honestly pretty cute. We have it's Frenzy sending like a bunch of like selfies of her to like just taunting all the Autobots, and then like you see Soundwave and Breakdown in the back like getting angry at her, which I think is really funny. Also, unfortunately, this is the last time we see the Decepticons in EarthSpark Season 3, and while it is kind of bittersweet knowing that we're not going to see them again at the rest of the season, I do think this is kind of a pretty good send-off for them. Like I said before in my No Sword Left Behind review, I really hope we get a Season 4 of EarthSpark, because I feel like if we do, we're definitely going to be going to Cybertron, because with everything Prowl revealed about Cybertron in Episode 4, this is just screaming that this is like leading up to Decepticons maybe making a comeback. Maybe like Decepticons take over Cybertron, and then Season 4 is going to be all about the Autobots and Terrans heading to Cybertron to try and take it back, essentially, and sort of finally bring peace to the planet, in my opinion. But as the Autobots are going through all the images that Frenzy sent them, they're suddenly interrupted by Bumblebee, who comes into the, like, comm room screaming at Optimus, like, angry at him over apparently having been left behind during the mission to save Prowl back in the previous episode. And while, of course, we as the audience know that this is because Bumblebee is under the effects of the hate plague, it is cool to see how Optimus, like, tries to justify his reasoning for why he didn't take Bumblebee on the mission. And he says, given, like, your personal, like, relationships, I felt you would be emotionally compromised on this mission going into Decepticon territory, which obviously is a reference to his relationship with Breakdown and the little fight they had during episode 1 of this season. Though it makes me wonder at this point, though, why did, so does this mean Optimus knows about Bumblebee's relationship with Breakdown? Is that what he was implying? Or perhaps maybe he only knew or found out about his relationship with Breakdown after the events of episode 1, and that's why he didn't want Bumblebee coming on the mission to save Prowl, because maybe he was worried that Bee would feel inclined to try and break Breakdown out again, even despite the fact that Breakdown betrayed him. I can understand that, and Bee's anger here is, we understand that Bee's anger is basically just being intensified because of the hate plague, though it is a justifiable reason why Optimus would be concerned about taking Bumblebee on this mission, and I really do appreciate that. But regardless of that, though, Bumblebee is infuriated with this because he's infected by the hate plague, and he ends up trying to attack Optimus, but Alita gets in the way of him, and he just throws her, infecting her with the hate plague next. And then after that, though, not realizing what's going on, not realizing that Bumblebee's actually infected with this plague, RC runs over to Alita to try to help her up, but because that Alita is now infected, she fights with RC, and RC gets infected too. Then all of a sudden after that, Grimlock just comes in out of nowhere, just swaddling around in his dinosaur mode, which, might add you, it bothers me just how much Grimlock is walking around in his dino mode, because obviously, apparently, I don't think they actually got Keith David back to voice Grimlock this season, but so they just have him stick around in dino mode throughout the whole season. It's kind of sad to see that Grimlock has just been reduced to just the walking dinosaur transformer, when he was such a cool character back in Season 1. But regardless of that, though, yeah, Grimlock comes in, and then RC jumps on top of him, infecting him, so now all 4 of them are infected, fighting each other, though Optimus and Prowl don't understand what's going on until, though, Megatron actually puts it together when he realizes that every person who got infected only happened after got infected, or after they, touched someone else. So it comes to this, Megatron realizes that it's an infection and that they need to get out of the base before they're infected too. And though at this point, it's kind of cool seeing that Optimus and Megatron's like views here are sort of switched on their head from how they were acting in the previous episode, like where before we had Optimus always wanted to like get the mission done no matter what, but Megatron was the one who was like, oh no, like you gotta we gotta focus on keeping these people alive. We gotta focus on saving whoever's trapped inside Prowl's ship. This time it's the opposite. Megatron's like, oh, we gotta get out of here and make sure we don't get infected as well. But then Optimus is like, no, I don't want to leave my fellow Autobots behind. That, I think, is really, really interesting. And it's not even like Optimus, like, it just makes me wonder though, what caused this change in views that now Megatron is the one acting more like level-headed, while Optimus is the one who doesn't want to leave his Autobots behind. Though I guess you could argue the fact that Optimus knows these are his Autobots, his soldiers and friends, and he doesn't want to see them hurt each other or kill each other, essentially. And while Megatron is sort of an outsider as a former Decepticon, he doesn't really have that same emotional bond with Bumblebee, Alita, and the other Autobots. So, but despite that, though, Optimus does agree to try and escape the base, so the two of them and Prowl start heading out, trying to figure out what's going on with this hate plague. At the same time this is going on, though, we have what is supposed to be the main plot of this episode, but in my mind is really the B plot, because I feel like Megatron and Optimus are really the main characters of this story. But the episode kind of frames this like the Terran story, of course, since they're the point of view characters. But at the same time, as this whole thing has been going on, we've been seeing the Malto children actually getting ready to go on a little snow day, where it starts with all of them heading into this like big, I think it's Twitch calls it a hyper shuttle, essentially, like this really super fast elevator. And we find out like when they arrive in this like polar region that apparently it's a secret ghost base that is stationed up in the North Pole. And so I'm confused sort of by how the logistics work with this. I would assume that the Autobot base is somewhere underground with Wiki, and so just somehow in the ghost base, or I could say the Autobot base now, they have apparently a giant super fast like elevator that goes underground and can take them like in seconds or even like a minute all the way to the North Pole. Like, what? Oh, you know what? I'm just not even gonna question, like, wondering like why Ghost even had a North Pole base, but regardless, the Maltos are all there just having a fun time in the snow. And like I mentioned in a video talking about season 3 as it was coming out, it makes me so happy that we finally have proper new locations in EarthSpark. Granted, it's not like a huge like big locale that's like gonna change the way this show is made and everything like that, but just to have the Maltos in a new area, like a snowy polar area that we've never seen this happen before in EarthSpark outside of just Witwicky or Philadelphia. It's a very nice change of pace, and I love too how also all the Terrans interact with us. So one of my favorite scenes here is this little bit where Nightshade tries to help Jawbreaker out with skating on the ice. So they do this really cute thing where they take some of their like energy blades off their arms and put it onto their feet to almost act like ice skates essentially, and they're like skating around the ice no problem. Then they even give Jawbreaker 2 of their things too to use as ice skates, though at the same time like Nightshade's like gently pushing Jawbreaker at his back to try and get him to like skate properly, and Jawbreaker's just like flailing about the whole time. It's really, really cute as someone who also struggles a lot with skating, like, or like ice skating and like roller skating. I went to like a roller rink, I remember when I was a kid back like about 10-15 years ago, and I absolutely sucked, and I was just like Jawbreaker here. But it's cute again just to see this little bit of Nightshade and Jawbreaker interacting, with Nightshade even calling Jawbreaker JB in this, which I don't think a lot of other Terrans have called Jawbreaker JB throughout this season yet. But so it's really cool to see like this one little moment where Nightshade and Jawbreaker really get to act like true siblings with one another. The two plots, though, do converge at this point, though, when Twitch realizes as they're all playing that she forgot to bring the marshmallows that they were all going to have as snacks halfway through their snow day. So she jumps back into this hyper shuttle, trying to head back down to the Autobot base to get them. But that's when she realizes that the hate plague is going on. All that, because the second she gets down, the whole base goes under lockdown thanks to Optimus locking down the base in an effort to contain the hate plague. And then she sees, in this really, really cool horror shot, she's wandering the Autobot base trying to find someone until she sees Alita. But then she sees Alita like beating up RC, and then they both turn to Twitch like with these big red eyes, and then the power goes out, leaving like just only RC and Alita's eyes. But then it like their faces like shift into like these really demonic smiles in the darkness where it's just their eyes and their smiles, and it's absolutely a really, really cool shot that I think 88 Pictures did a great job on. This whole bit of Twitch running away from RC and Alita the entire time it's like straight out of a horror movie. It's really, really good. I love this one scene where Twitch is hiding in a bunch of boxes, and Alita and RC are just stalking the hallways looking for her, and you can see Twitch crouching behind a bunch of crates looking terrified. It's so intense. I absolutely love it. Another thing I really love about this episode is the soundtrack. In this episode, for whatever reason, Crush Effect made what I believe is legit one of the best songs they have ever made for EarthSpark. And it plays a lot throughout this episode. It's the official actual EarthSpark Season 2 and 3 soundtrack was released a few days before Season 3 actually came out. And this song is included. It's about like 10 minutes long, almost half the length of the episode. And the song's called Everyone Infected. And for some reason, it just goes absolutely so hard. The tech, it just sounds so intense, so like action-packed, adrenaline focused, and they play like every single action scene in this episode, and it's so good. I wish I could play it for you all guys here so you know what I'm talking about, but I don't want to risk getting a copyright claim and having this video taken down, so maybe I'll put it in my big EarthSpark Season 2 and 3 video essay, which will be coming out probably about a month or so after I'm done with all of these Season 3 reviews, because it is really good. But as Megatron, Optimus, and Prowl are about to escape from the base, they're suddenly interrupted by Bumblebee, who comes charging in his ult mode at Optimus, but just as he's about to touch Optimus and infect him, Prowl jumps in front of him and tackles Bumblebee, saving Optimus and letting himself get infected in the process. So as Prowl tries to hold off Bumblebee while he's slowly being infected, Optimus and Megatron run to the exit gate of the Autobot base, where Optimus says that he orders Megatron to leave the base and go get Dot to bring help back to help out all the infected Autobots. And though Megatron wants Optimus to come with him, Optimus says he can't stay with him because he needs to activate the lockdown again once Megatron is out. So it's really, like, of course, this is like the obligatory, like, apocalypse scenario where it's like, honestly, you know what it reminds me of, actually? It reminds me of episode 8 of Season 1 of Cyberverse, actually, when the Plague of Rust infected all of Velocitron, and then Blur stayed behind to ensure Bumblebee and Hot Rod got off Velocitron and he died with the rest of the planet. It low-key really reminds me of that. So as Optimus activates the lockdown release, getting ready to help Megatron escape, that's when Prowl suddenly ends up attacking Optimus, now fully infected, and he attacks Optimus, and it infects him as well. But just as Megatron is about to escape, though, Optimus attacks Megatron, destroying the terminal for the gate of the Autobot base in the process, and basically reinstating the lockdown. So now Megatron has to fight off Optimus while at the same time trying to not, like, touch him so he gets infected as well. And it's really cool to see here just how Megatron and Optimus fight here, where it's so different that to have Megatron doesn't just immediately want to kill Optimus, where he's actively trying not to fight him at this point, because not only because he doesn't want to get infected, but also because he's his friend again in this continuity, and I really like that. But just as seems like Megatron is about to get infected by Optimus, Twitch comes in at this point to save him by stabbing, like, this giant truck, which I think it's, like, full of liquid nitrogen. She stabs the truck and pushes it into Optimus, which then explodes and creates a giant cloud of ice that essentially it stuns Optimus for a bit and, like, knocks him out briefly of hate plague, but not enough to fully cure him of the plague. So realizing that the ice, or just cold temperature in general, seems to slow down the plague, Megatron and Twitch end up trying to get back to the Hyper Shuttle now in an effort to escape and get up to the North Pole, and thinking that will cure the Autobots. So at this point, Megatron just grabs a bunch of like other like nitrogen trucks and ends up throwing them at Optimus, Prowl, Bumblebee, and all the other Autobots. I even love during this scene, Megatron once again calls Twitch Little Bird like he did back in the Season 1, Episode 10, I believe. It's so cool to see that again, just because I love when Rory McCann's, who's Megatron's voice actor, when he was in Game of Thrones, he did that with Arya. So I just love that, just constantly, though, Megatron calls Twitch Little Bird a lot more throughout this season than the one time he did back in Season 1. I love that nickname has stuck, because it really makes Megatron and Twitch's relationship feel a lot more personal, as almost like a father-daughter relationship, and I really like that. Eventually, Megatron and Twitch do end up making it to the Hyper Shuttle, but it ends up being locked due to the lockdown Optimus put on the whole Autobot base. So Twitch has to end up hacking into the terminal to try and get the Hyper Shuttle open. But just as she's about finally gets it open, they both get in, but not before Optimus ends up getting into a brief scuffle with Megatron. And it seems like, though, Twitch is able to save him before he can infect Megatron. But just as they get into the shuttle and it starts taking him up to the North Pole base, Megatron reveals that he actually ended up getting infected by Twitch. Though thankfully, though, just before, unlike with Optimus and the other Autobots, Megatron's able to hold off the infection a lot longer than them. And as we find out later, when Twitch actually gets out of the shuttle to warn Robbie, Moe, and the rest of the Terrans about the hate plague going on, when they see Megatron, Megatron says that the reason he's able to hold it off for so long is because since, as leader of Decepticons, he knew what it was like to be so full of hate, so he's sort of become resistant to the hate plague a bit. And I think that's a really cool way of showing just how much EarthSpark Megatron has changed as a character, that he's not just like a totally different version of him. He is still the same Megatron that he was like years ago back as a leader of Decepticons and being like in a war with Optimus, but he's learned to overcome that rage and anger that made him so violent back in prior to the war. It's a really nice piece of like storytelling that we don't actually like see how Megatron acted during the war, but it's a nice way of showing how he acted during the war without showing it, and I really like that. So at this point, Megatron is no longer able to hold off the hate plague from fully infecting him, and just as he's about to attack Twitch and the other Terrans, though, that's when Optimus ends up coming to the shuttle as well. It's now the two of them, both infected by the hate plague, start fighting each other across the Arctic ghost space, and at this point, Twitch reveals to the rest of the Maltos that perhaps the only way to cure Megatron Optimus is to make them colder, and so at this point, Nightshade believes that the best way to do this would be by tricking the two of them over a giant frozen ice floor and then breaking the ice around them so that they'll fall into the frozen ocean, and then therefore like that would instantly cure them with how cold the water is. I love, though, there's this one little brief joke that happens before they all start trying to cut the ice under Megatron Optimus, where Nightshade tells them, like, alright, everyone, we need to break the ice here, and then Jawbreaker just immediately interprets that as, like, oh, a conversation starter, as a way, like a traditional conversational icebreaker, and Jawbreaker just starts doing those, and Nightshade's like, no, not that kind of icebreaker, and that was a clever delivery in my opinion, and I think Cyrus Arnold and Z Infante do a great job of voicing Nightshade and JB in that scene. But after that, though, all the Maltos get to work on cutting up the ice. Robbie rides on the back of Hashtag using the edge of his shield to cut the ice. Nightshade uses their little arm blades that they were using as ice skates in the start of this episode. Jawbreaker just constantly headbutts the ice with his alt mode, and then Twitch uses her swords and with Moe, and then Thrash uses shields, and after a while they are able to break all the ice that Optimus and Megatron do end up falling in. Though when they don't come out, Twitch starts to get worried and dives into the water to save them, only to realize Optimus is now fully cured and is dragging an unconscious Megatron out of the water as well with him. So with that, Twitch gets Robbie and Moe to use their cyber cables we saw them use last episode to tow basically Megatron and Optimus out of the water, and eventually after that, Megatron gets Hashtag to hack into the Autobot base and essentially turn up the AC like a -1,000,000 degrees, basically freezing the whole base and curing all the other Autobots of the hate plague as well. That then leads us to the end of this episode, which honestly is a very sweet way to end it, and a perfect conclusion to this little back and forth argument Megatron and Optimus have been having since the start of episode 4. So basically all the Maltos and Autobots return back to the Autobot base, trying to recover after the events, after surviving the hate plague. And at this point, Optimus and Megatron have a little conversation where they apologize to the things they said to each other while they were being infected by the hate plague. And I absolutely love this bit. Alan Tudyk and Rory McCann are so good as Optimus and Megatron, and it's legit, in my opinion, one of the best scenes these two have had together in the entire show. The dialogue between them is just so good. This episode's writer, I think their name is Aiko Hilkinger, they did a fantastic job writing Optimus and Megatron's dialogue in this, where Optimus wishes, like, while he's sorry for what he did to Megatron, he does wish that Megatron wouldn't argue with him so constantly, so much, as we saw them do back in episode 4. Though Megatron refutes this, saying that, well, someone needs to question you, Optimus, because if you just let a leader do whatever they want without any resistance whatsoever, that can lead to tyranny, and I should know because that's what happened to me when I was leading the Decepticons. And then Optimus comes back as well, saying that, like, okay, like, I understand that, but also you need to trust me, and that, like, you need to be okay with following my orders without question. But then Megatron, instead of Megatron, you'd expect Megatron to just like argue back with him further, but actually Megatron is a lot more calm this time compared to how he was in the last episode. I like that changing growth that Megatron has done here, where he instead says, I think more so we need to trust each other more. We have to like co-lead essentially and not just let Optimus be the leader all the time. And this was such a sweet moment here where immediately after that Optimus tells Megatron that he trusts him with his life, and then literally it's so MegOp coded. This episode is legit so MegOp coded, and I love it. And then Megatron says back to him, I trust you with my life too. Oh my god, it's so good. And if it wasn't for the fact that Megatron just calls Optimus brother right after that, I would totally interpret this as a huge, like, MegOp gay moment right now, because, oh my god, it's so sweet. And I think they had to, like, they probably made sure the writers had Megatron call Optimus his brother here, just to avoid that confusion of, oh, are they a couple in this universe? Who knows? But it's just funny how, like, so often Bumblebee and Breakdown call each other brother. Now we have Optimus and Megatron doing the same thing. EarthSpark will do anything and everything they can to not just flat out say that these two characters are gay for each other. But I love it. It doesn't even help more where after that, like, Optimus and Megatron just sort of, like, shake hands after that. And then immediately after, Twitch, hashtag Nightshade and Thrash are all, like doing little, like, all, like, making cute faces over how, like, sweet Optimus and Megatron look together. Like, literally, it is so MegOp coded, and I love that. After that, the episode then properly ends with Prowl telling Optimus and Megatron that he's going to start an investigation into how the hate plague originated with Bumblebee, which I think is a great way to sort of tease what's going to be happening in the next episode we'll be talking about next week. And that's another thing that I really liked about this season, instead of how, starting with episode 4, every episode's ending has sort of led into the next one to tell a more continuous story, and like basically makes the whole season feel a lot more connected and less serialized. I like how we're getting a more proper linear storytelling with this season. It's very similar to what we did in quite a few episodes in like the last batch of season 1. So as Prowl goes to start his investigation into the hate plague, Robbie ends up getting a call from Izzy, who called him earlier at the start of this episode before they went on their little snow day, in like playtime. She asks him if everything's okay at Autobot base, which he responds to that it was a lot, but they're all fine, including all the Autobots. And I think this is very, very smart to have Izzy call Robbie here. I'm not gonna reveal why just yet, but considering what happens in next week's episode, this is an actually really clever teaser of what's going to happen in episode 6, because as Robbie and I think Robbie and the rest of the Terrans end up leaving the Autobot base as well alongside Prowl, they pass by Teletran 1, the room is just completely empty, and then it zooms in on Teletran 1's main monitor, which shows a warning symbol briefly flash to the Quintesson logo instead. And that is where we end the episode, with a huge teaser about the Quintessons and how they are going to play a very, very big role in these final 3 episodes of EarthSpark Season 3. And so, that was my review of Transformers EarthSpark Season 3, Episode 5, Fire and Ice. No surprise, with this episode, I will gladly give it another 10 out of 10. This episode was a banger from start to finish in every which way. The music, like Everyone Infected, is literally one of Crush Effect's best songs they've ever made. The whole, like, zombie infection-like storyline we have with Optimus, Megatron, and Prowl trying to survive the hate plague, then later Twitch hiding away from RC and Alita was so good. All the dialogue between Optimus and Megatron, even Prowl, was fantastic in this episode, and just everything about it was so well put together. As an Optimus and Megatron themed episode, this was really, really good. Great new settings and all that. Absolutely fantastic. No problems with this episode, and I'm so happy to see EarthSpark find its footing again after a rather rocky second season. But that's going to be it for this review. I'll be back next week with Episode 6, The Truth Is Out There. Before I go, though, I'm so glad you guys have been loving all of my Transformer, like, little special guest star goodbye messages that I've been putting at the end of my videos for my Episode 3 review. I got a message from Nightshade's voice actor, Z Infante, and in the last week's review, I got Cyberverse Windblade's voice actor, Jessica DiGiovanni. And it's time again. I have another surprise guest for you to say goodbye in this video, and that is none other than Travis Arts, aka the voice of Cyberverse Hot Rod. I have gotten to meet him plenty times throughout the years at various Transformers conventions. We met at New York Comic Con 2022 at the EarthSpark panel, where I got to meet him in a Hot Rod cosplay. I got to meet him again at BotCon 2023 last year, and I got to meet him again this year at TFCon Baltimore just a few months ago, and it was so great to meet him. It's always a joy seeing him. His love for Hot Rod and the Transformers franchise is so nice to see, and he recorded this nice message for you guys as Hot Rod. So if you're excited as I am to see the next review next week, be sure to like, comment, and of course subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Take it away, Hot Rod.
Hey, this is Travis Arts, the voice of Hot Rod on Transformers Cyberverse. You're watching Autobot Sonic. Like, subscribe, comment for more awesome Transformers stuff.
Thank you.
Roll out.